Commander Park Jimin stood at the large window of the orbital station, watching Earth spin slowly below him. The blue and green planet looked so peaceful from up here. He had been stationed on Unity's Dawn for 3 years now, and the view never got old, sir. The morning reports are ready, said Lieutenant Kim Tae-young as he walked up behind him. The young officer carried a tablet filled with data about their daily operations. Jimin turned around and smiled. Good, how are the preparations for the Unity Festival going? Everything is on schedule. Ambassador Lee Yuna will arrive tomorrow from the Coalition headquarters. She says this year's festival will be the biggest one yet. The Unity Festival happened every year to celebrate peace between Earth and the 12 alien species in the Galactic Coalition. It had been 50 years since humans first met aliens, and those 50 years had changed everything. Jimin remembered the stories his grandfather told him about first contact. Back then, humans were scared. The aliens had technology that was hundreds of years ahead of Earth's. They had ships that could travel between stars in days, not years. They had weapons that could destroy entire planets. Humans had nothing compared to them. But something strange happened during those first meetings. The aliens were impressed by humans, not because of their technology, but because of something else. Humans were good at talking to people. They were good at solving problems between different groups. They were good at making peace. The Coalition needed mediators, Dr. Choi Mingi said as she joined them at the window. She was the station's chief scientist and had studied the history of first contact for years. For thousands of years, these alien species had been fighting each other. They had technology, but they could not make peace. And humans could? Tae-young asked. We were neutral, Minji explained. We had no history with any of the alien species. We had no old grudges. When the Kethfer and the Zephyrians were about to go to war over mining rights, human diplomats helped them find a solution. When the Nexari and the Vorthon had border disputes, humans drew up agreements that both sides accepted. Jimin nodded. That's why they invited us to join the Coalition. It's not because we were strong, but because we could help keep the peace. The Terran Pact was signed 20 years after first contact. It was a simple agreement. The Coalition would protect Earth and slowly share their technology with humans. In return, humans would help solve disputes between alien species and promise never to turn their space stations into weapons. The orbital platforms must remain peaceful, Jimin said, looking around at their station. That was the most important rule. The aliens were worried that humans might use the stations to attack other planets. Their station looked peaceful enough. It had laboratories where scientists studied alien plants and animals. It had workshops where engineers learned to build alien technology. It had meeting rooms where diplomats from different species could talk safely. There were gardens where families could relax and children could play. Do you think they were right to worry? Tae-young asked quietly. Jimin was quiet for a moment. He thought about human history. Humans had fought wars for thousands of years. They had built weapons that could destroy cities. They had fought over land, resources, and ideas. But they had also learned to make peace. I think they were smart to be careful, he said finally. But they were also smart to trust us. Look what we've accomplished together. The Coalition had grown stronger with human help. Trade between species had increased. Wars had become rare. New technologies were being shared peacefully. The galaxy was more united than it had ever been. The Unity Festival is proof of that, Minji said. 10,000 beings from 13 different species will gather here tomorrow. Diplomats, scientists, families, children, all celebrating peace. Jimin looked at the other orbital stations visible in the distance. Each one was a symbol of cooperation between humans and aliens. Each one was filled with people working together to build a better future. Sir Tae-yang said, Do you ever wonder what would happen if someone broke the pact? What do you mean? What if someone attacked Earth? What if one of the alien species decided they didn't want humans in the Coalition anymore? Min smiled. That won't happen. The Pact protects us. Coalition protects us. We've proven that we're valuable partners. But what if it did happen? Jimin looked out at the peaceful stations around Earth. He thought about the thousands of humans living and working in space, thought about the families on the planet below. He thought about the promises they had made and the trust they had built. Then we would have to trust that 50 years of friendship means something, he said. But deep down, Jimin knew that humans had not forgotten how to fight. They had simply chosen not to. The orbital stations might look peaceful, but they had been built by the same species that had once conquered their own planet through war. The Coalition had asked humans to keep their stations peaceful. They had not asked humans to forget who they were. Agent Han Seo-jin pressed his back against the cold metal wall of the Nexori diplomatic compound. His heart was beating fast, but he kept his breathing quiet. 3 months of careful watching had led him to this moment. He had to get closer to hear what they were saying inside. The special earpiece in his ear picked up voices from the room. 3 different alien languages, but his translator turned them into words he could understand. What he heard made his blood turn cold. Humans had become too powerful, said a deep voice. Seokajin recognized it as General Vaktar from the Kethfer military. Their peace talks always help the weak species. They make us look bad. Agreed, said another voice, this one belonging to Trade Minister Zephalon of the Zephyrians. Diplomats cost us billions in lost profits. They convince smaller species to demand fair prices for their resources. The third voice was calm and cold. It belonged to Science Director Nexorus of the Nexori. The solution is simple. Remove the humans from the equation. Seokjin's hands shook as he recorded everything. This was not just complaining, this was planning. Across the galaxy. Agent Park Jisoo was having similar thoughts as she watched another secret meeting on the Zephyrian homeworld. She had been tracking unusual military movements for weeks. Ships were moving in patterns that made no sense for normal operations. Agent Han, she whispered into her communicator, I'm seeing massive fleet movements. 3 species are moving. Warships toward neutral positions near Earth space. Back at the Nexari compound, Seokjin heard more details that made him sick to his stomach. The attack must look like terrorism, General Vaktar explained. We will use modified ships to make it appear that rogue humans are responsible. The galaxy will believe that Earth has betrayed the peace. The timing is perfect, added Minister Zephalon. During the Unity Festival, all of Earth's leadership will be gathered on the orbital platforms. We can eliminate their government and their space infrastructure in one strike. After the attack, we will offer to occupy Earth for galactic security. Director Nexorus said, The other coalition species will thank us for stopping the human threat. Seokjin had heard enough. He carefully moved away from the compound and activated his emergency communicator. Control, this is Agent Han. Priority Alpha message for Earth Command. On Earth's orbital station Unity's Dawn, Communications Officer Shin Hoziak was enjoying a quiet night shift when the priority message came through. The code word made him sit up straight in his chair. Priority Alpha meant immediate threat to Earth. Commander Park, please report to communications immediately, he announced over the station's speakers. Commander Park Jimin arrived within minutes, still putting on his uniform jacket. What's the situation, Hoziak? Sir, we have intelligence reports from Agents Han and Park. You need to see this immediately. Jimin read the reports twice before. The full meaning hit him. His face turned pale, then red with anger. Get me Captain Jung Namjoon? Unsecure channel? Wake up Dr. Choi and Lieutenant Kim. Emergency meeting in 5 minutes. As the senior staff gathered in the secure briefing room, Jimin shared the terrible news. The 3 species that humans had trusted for 50 years were planning to destroy Earth during tomorrow's Unity Festival. 10,000 innocent people will be on these platforms tomorrow, Dr. Choi, Minji said, her voice shaking. Diplomats, scientists, families, children. They're planning to murder them all. The worst part, Captain Jung Namjoon said over the video link from his station, is that they plan to blame us for it. They want to make the galaxy think humans started a war. Lieutenant Kim Tae-young looked confused. But why? What did we do wrong? We've only tried to help. That's exactly the problem, Jimin said bitterly. We've been too successful at helping the smaller species. The big 3 are losing money and influence because of our peace negotiations. Hoziak was monitoring more incoming intelligence reports. Sir, Agent Park is reporting that the attack fleets are already in position. They're using stealth technology to hide near the outer planets. How long do we have? Asked Dr. Choi. The Unity Festival starts in 18 hours, Jimin said. The main ceremony is scheduled for 24 hours from now. The room was quiet as everyone thought about what this meant. For 50 years, humans had kept their promise to remain peaceful. They had built trust with the galaxy by never turning their space stations into weapons. They had proven that Earth could be a force for peace. Now 3 species were about to destroy that trust forever. Commander Captain Jung Namjoon said carefully, "What are our orders?" Jimin looked around the room at his people. These were good humans who had devoted their lives to peace. They had families on Earth and in space. They had worked hard to build bridges between species that had been enemies for thousands of years. "Contact Earth Command," he said quietly. "Tell them we need emergency authorization for Protocol 7. Everyone in the room knew what Protocol 7 meant. It was the plan that had been written 50 years ago but never used. The plan that would turn their peaceful stations into something else entirely. "Sir," Taeyong asked nervously, "are we really going to break the pact?" Jimin stood up and looked out at the stars. "Lieutenant, they broke the pact the moment they decided to attack civilians. We're just going to remind them why humans chose peace in the first place." The attack began at exactly 8 in the morning, just as the Unity Festival's opening ceremony was starting. Commander Park Jimin was standing on the main observation deck with Ambassador Lee Yuna and 50 other diplomats from across the galaxy. When the first explosion lit up the darkness of space, "What was that?" Ambassador Lee asked, pointing at the bright flash in the distance. Before Jimin could answer, alarms started screaming throughout the station. Lieutenant Kim Tae-young's voice came over the speakers, filled with panic. "All stations. This is Unity's dawn. We are under attack. Station Harmony 7 has been destroyed." Through the large windows, they could see ships appearing out of nowhere. Dozens of warships that had been invisible suddenly became visible, surrounding Earth like hungry wolves. Their weapons were already firing at the peaceful orbital platforms. "Impossible," whispered the Kethver diplomat standing next to Jimin. "Those are our ships, but we did not authorize any attack." Jimin knew the truth, but he said nothing. The ships looked like Kethver vessels, but he could see small differences that meant they were copies. The attacking fleet wanted everyone to think that multiple species were fighting each other round Earth. Another explosion rocked their station. Through the chaos, Jimin could hear Communications Officer Shin Hoseok trying to contact other platforms. "Station New Hope, please respond." "Station Peaceful Sky, are you there?" Only half the stations answered. The others were already gone, destroyed in the first wave of attacks. Thousands of people had died in those first few minutes, including many alien diplomats who had come to celebrate peace. On the surface of Earth, Major Kim Soo-yang was watching the sky from her command post in Seoul. Bright flashes were appearing above the atmosphere as the orbital stations exploded one by one. Then she saw something that made her heart stop. "Incoming missiles," she shouted into her radio. "All units take cover. They're targeting the city." The first missile hit the government district, destroying several buildings in a ball of fire. Then more missiles came down like deadly rain, hitting hospitals, schools, and apartment buildings. The attackers were not just destroying military targets. They were trying to kill as many civilians as possible. "Sole command to all orbital stations," Major Kim said into her emergency communicator. "The surface is under attack. They're hitting civilian targets. Repeat, they are killing innocent people." Back on Unity's dawn, the fake message began broadcasting on all frequencies. A human voice, speaking with an Earth's accent, claimed responsibility for the attacks. "People of the galaxy," the voice said, "this is the Human Liberation Front. For too long, our leaders have made us weak by serving alien masters. Today we take back our freedom. Today we show the galaxy that humans will not be slaves." Ambassador Lee Yuna stared at Commander Jimin in shock. "Is this true? Are your people really doing this?" "No," Jimin said firmly. "This is a lie. No. Human organization would attack during a peace festival. Someone is trying to make us look like terrorists." But even as he spoke, more stations around Earth were exploding. The attackers were methodical, destroying the platforms one by one. They seemed to know exactly where to hit to cause the most damage. Dr. Choi Mingi burst into the observation deck, her face pale with fear. "Commander, we've lost contact with Earth's Surface Command. The attackers hit the main communication centers. How many stations do we have left?" Jimin asked. 7 out of 15, she replied. "And they're all taking heavy damage." Through the window, they could see one of the attacking ships getting closer to their station. It was firing at their defensive shields, trying to break through their protection. "I want to capture this station," Lieutenant Taeyong said as he joined them. "They're not trying to destroy us. They want prisoners." Jimin understood immediately. The attackers wanted to capture human leaders alive so they could force them to confess to crimes they did not commit. They wanted to put humans on trial for terrorism to justify taking over Earth. "Sir," Hosiok called from the communications station. "I'm getting a message from Earth's surface. It's coming through the emergency channels." The message was short but clear. Came from the few human military commanders who had survived the surface attacks. "All orbital stations, this is General Park on emergency frequency. The Pact is void. Authorization granted for all defensive measures." Repeat, the Pact is void. The alien diplomats on the observation deck looked confused, but every human in the room understood exactly what those words meant. Promise to keep their space stations peaceful. Now that promise was officially broken, Captain Jung. Namjoon's voice came through the communicator from his station across the system. "Commander Park, this is Eternal Vigil. We received the authorization. Are we really going to do this?" Bin looked around at the destruction surrounding Earth. He thought about the thousands of people who had already died. He thought about the children in the burning cities below. He thought about 50 years of trust that had been destroyed in a single morning. "Captain Jung," he said quietly. "They wanted to see what happens when humans stop being peaceful. Let's show them." Engineer Lee Jungkook was already at his station, his hands moving over controls that had been hidden for decades. "Sir, all systems are ready for conversion. We can begin immediately." "Do it," Jimin ordered. "Convert everything. It's time they learned why we chose peace." Engineer Lee Jungkook's hands moved quickly across control panels that most people had never seen before, hidden behind false walls and disguised as maintenance systems. The real controls of Unity's dawn were finally being revealed. Conversion protocol initiated, he announced to Commander Park Jimin. Estimated time to full military status, 4 hours. What the 3 attacking species did not know was that every human orbital station had been built with a secret. On the surface, they looked like peaceful research facilities. But underneath, they were designed to transform into something much more dangerous. Dr. Choi Minji was in her laboratory, but she was not studying alien plants anymore. Her hands worked quickly to reprogram the bioresearch equipment. Growth chambers to viral production systems, she reported through her communicator. The agricultural labs are now bioweapon facilities. The machines that had been growing food for the space stations were now creating something else entirely. 50 years of studying alien biology had taught humans exactly which genetic markers made each species unique. Now that knowledge was being used in ways the aliens never expected. "Target, Kethfer Respiratory System," Mingi said as she programmed the first batch of weapons. "This virus will only affect their species. Humans and other aliens will not be harmed." On the other side of the station, Engineer Bay Suzy was working in what everyone thought was the asteroid mining section. The large machines that had been used to collect space rocks were being turned toward a different purpose. "Mass driver systems converting to kinetic bombardment mode," she reported. "We now have precision orbital strike capability." The mining equipment had always been powerful enough to move huge chunks of rock through space. Now it would be used to drop those rocks on enemy targets with perfect accuracy. The aliens had never realized that human mining tools could become weapons in minutes. Communications Officer Shin Hosiok was revealing the biggest secret of all. The peaceful communication satellites that connected all the human stations were not just for talking. They were also a massive targeting and coordination system. "Full tactical network is now active," he announced. "All stations are connected to the targeting grid, can coordinate attacks across the entire system. For 50 years, humans had been watching and learning. Every alien ship that visited Earth was scanned and studied. Every alien weapon was analyzed and cataloged. Every alien weakness was carefully recorded. The humans had pretended to be peaceful students. They had really been preparing for war. Captain Jung Namjoon's voice came through the communicator from his station far. Across the solar system, Unity's dawn, this is eternal vigil. Our conversion is complete. Weapons systems are online. Same here, reported Commander Kim from Station New Dawn. Our biolabs are producing targeted toxins. Our mass drivers are ready for bombardment runs. One by one, the surviving human stations reported their successful conversions. What had been peaceful research facilities just hours ago were now military bases bristling with weapons. Sir Lieutenant Kim Tae-young said, looking at the tactical displays. The enemy ships are still attacking, as if we're helpless. They have no idea what we've done? Through the observation windows, they could see the alien warships continuing their methodical destruction of what they thought were defenseless platforms. The attackers were being careful not to damage the stations too, much because they wanted to capture them intact. They think we're still bound by the Pact, Jimin said with a bitter smile. They think we're still the same peaceful humans who promise never to weaponize our stations. Dr. Choi's voice came through the communicator with an update. First batch of bioweapons is ready for deployment. Target the Kethfer ships. This will disable their crews without killing them immediately. Negative, Jimin said firmly. We're not going to disable them. They chose to attack civilians. They chose to bomb children. They don't get mercy. Engineer Bae Suzy had finished programming the mass driver systems. Kinetic bombardment systems are locked onto enemy command ships. One shot will vaporize their bridges. But sir, Tae-young said nervously, if we kill them, the other species will think we really are terrorists. Jimin looked at the tactical display showing the burning cities on Earth below. He thought about the thousands of people who had died in the first attack. He thought about the children who would never see their parents again. They already think we're terrorists, he said quietly. They planned this whole thing to make us look like monsters. The difference is, now we're going to be monsters with weapons. The fake human voice was still broadcasting across the galaxy, claiming responsibility for the attacks. But now the real humans were ready to send their own message. All stations, this is Commander Park Jimin, he announced on the military frequency. 50 years ago, we promised to keep our stations peaceful. We kept that promise even when it was difficult. We chose peace over war, cooperation over conquest. He paused, looking at the enemy ships that were still attacking his defenseless diplomatic guests. Today they broke that peace. Today, they chose to murder innocents and blame us for their crimes. Today, they learn why we chose peace in the first place. Engineer Lee Jungkook looked up from his controls. All systems are ready, sir. We can begin the counterattack whenever you give the order. Then let's show them what Earth's children can do when the gloves come off. The counterattack began at exactly noon, Earth time. Commander Park Jimin gave the order that would change everything. All stations, weapons free. Show them what we really are. The first strike came from Captain Jung Namjoon's station, Eternal Vigil. The mass driver system that had once moved asteroids now launched a chunk of metal at incredible speed toward the lead Kethfer command ship. The projectile hit with the force of a nuclear bomb, but with perfect precision. Direct hit on enemy flagship, reported Engineer Bae Suzy from her targeting station. The ship is completely destroyed. No survivors. The alien attackers had not expected this. For the past 4 hours, they had been methodically destroying what they thought were helpless research stations. Now those same stations were firing back with weapons they had never seen before. Possible, General Vacta said from his command ship as he watched his flagship disappear in a ball of fire. The humans have no military technology. Their stations are peaceful research facilities. That was their first mistake. Their second mistake was not retreating immediately. Dr. Choi. Benji released the first bioweapon from Unity's dawn. It looked like a simple cloud of gas drifting toward the Kethfer ships. Their air systems, something terrible happened. Bioweapon deployed, she reported calmly. Target: HFY respiratory systems. The virus is designed to attack their specific genetic markers. Within minutes, the HFY crews began collapsing at their stations. Their lungs filled with fluid as the virus attacked their breathing systems. The ships began drifting helplessly. As their crews died, "This is insane," Trade Minister Zephalon said from his ship as he watched the HFY fleet become ghost ships. "How do the humans have biological weapons? They promised to remain peaceful." Communications Officer Shinho Ziok answered that question by revealing the targeting network that had been hidden for 50 years. All stations target the Zephyrian trade vessels. Show them what our communication satellites really do. The peaceful communication network suddenly became a military coordination system more advanced than anything the aliens had ever seen. Every human station could now share targeting data instantly. Every weapon could be guided with perfect accuracy. The Zephyrian ships tried to run, but it was too late. Mass drivers from 3 different stations fired simultaneously, their projectiles guided by the targeting network. The Zephyrian fleet was destroyed in less than 30 seconds. Science. Director Nexarus watched in horror from his advanced Nexari command ship as 2 entire fleets were eliminated. Retreat. All ships retreat immediately. But the humans were not finished. They had spent 50 years studying Nexari technology, learning how their advanced shields and weapons worked. Now they used that knowledge against them. Engineer Lee Jung-kook launched a special weapon that had been designed specifically for Nexari ships. Electromagnetic pulse deployed. Target: Nexari shield generators. The pulse hit the Nexari ships, and their advanced shields collapsed instantly. Without their protection, the ships were just as vulnerable as any other vessel. All stations, focus fire on the Nexari command ship, ordered Commander Jimin. End this. Different orbital platforms fired at once. Mass drivers, energy weapons, and guided projectiles all converged on the Nexari flagship. The ship that had contained the most advanced technology in the galaxy was vaporized in seconds. The battle was over in less than 2 hours. 3 entire fleets that had taken decades to build were completely destroyed. Not a single alien ship escaped to tell the story, but the humans were not finished with their message. This is Commander Park Jimin of the Human Orbital Defense Force. He broadcast on all galactic frequencies. For 50 years, Earth sought peace. We joined your coalition in good faith, helped solve your conflicts. We promised to keep our weapons hidden, and we kept that promise. Around the galaxy, representatives of the 9 remaining coalition species listened in stunned silence. Today, 3 of your member species chose to betray that peace, Jimin continued. They attacked civilians, they bombed children, tried to frame us for terrorism, they chose war. Major Kim Soo-yang was coordinating rescue efforts in the burning ruins of Seoul when she heard the broadcast. Despite the destruction around her, she smiled. The orbital stations had avenged the innocent people who died in the surface attacks. Wanted to see what humans do when cornered, Jimin's voice echoed across the stars. You wanted to know what we become when we stop choosing peace. Now you know. The other coalition species were terrified. They'd been living alongside humans for 50 years, thinking they were a peaceful species that needed protection. Now they realized they had been sharing the galaxy with apex predators who had been consciously holding back. The HFY Zephyrian and Nexari fleets no longer exist, Dr. Choi Minji reported to the galaxy. Their attack on Earth has been completely eliminated. We used weapons designed specifically for their biology and technology. This is what we become when you betray the Pact, Captain Jung, Namjoon added from his station. This is what happens when you mistake our choice for peace as weakness. Commander Jimin ended the broadcast with words that would be remembered for centuries. Earth sought peace, and you gave us war. We honored our word, and you broke yours. Choose your next words very carefully, because we will never make the mistake of trusting blindly again. In the silence that followed, the galaxy understood that everything had changed. The humans were no longer the weak species that needed protection. They were the species that everyone else needed to fear.